Hi, and welcome to Buddy's Catholic. I'm Tom,
And I'm Ellie.
and welcome back after, sorry, it's been such a long time. It's been a big gap. I think it's been a month.
I think it has been probably,
Yeah,
so sorry about that.
there was a lot going on, wasn't there?
Yeah, life rather got in the way.
Life and family and all that. So yeah, but we are back.
Yeah, apologies to our, 3 followers
All
who
3.
actually noticed we've been gone.
So Ellie, what is your question for this week?
Today's question is all about Catholic saints. So I know that obviously it's something that is like a really big deal in Catholicism. I think I find out more and more like bits and bobs about how important they really are. Such a broad question, but I guess like why do Catholics particularly have them? Like why are they important? Like the fact that you pick a saint name when you get confirmation, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm Alban.
St. Alban.
St. Alban, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess like we'll just start off with the what is a saint and why are they important, and then I guess we can build on that.
So I think so saint just means holy.
Okay.
So it comes from the Latin word for sanctus, so it just means holy. And I think the the, the definition of what a saint is kind of has changed slightly. So I think in kind of kind of Old Testament, there's an idea of holy individuals.
Mm.
And then, but in the New Testament, especially when the apostles start writing in Acts and the letters of Paul, they kind of refer to saints as just Christians in general.
Right, so any Christian is a saint.
Any Christians are saints. They kind of use the word interchangeably to mean the Christian community and also those in heaven.
That's very interesting.
So the Christian community in the New Testament and much more the letters of the apostles, they kind of refer to like the community of saints.
So you'd be a saint.
Yeah. So it's much more a way of saying Christians,
Right.
fellow Christians. But there is also this understanding of kind of that community is also in heaven.
Right.
So, and that's the second, and the secondary definition is the one that's kind of become predominant. So after the apostolic age, so the initial beginnings of the church, we don't really refer to other Christians or the Christian community as saints. But what has remained is the understanding of the community in heaven as a saint.
So just to be clear, if you are a saint in like the modern age, you talk about saints, they have to be dead.
Yes. Whereas I think in the earliest church, it was kind of interchangeably used for those that are dead Christians, but also those that are still around with members of the early church. Whereas that first definition's kind of been dropped.
Yeah.
And we use it predominantly for those that are dead.
Yeah. And generally people are made, from my understanding, people are made saints when they die if they've done something very like significant, a bit like that famous recent one of that teenager who got made a saint.
Yes. I will take it back. So actually anyone can be a saint. You just have to be dead and be in heaven.
Okay.
So the modern definition of saint is to refer to the Christian community that is in heaven. So if you're dead and you've gone to heaven, you're a saint.
Okay, even if you're not like a famous.
So you don't have to be recognized. So the Catholic Church doesn't make saints. It recognizes something. It's recognizing something that has happened.
Right.
So there are an untold number of saints in heaven.
Right.
We just don't know all their names. But the church chooses to recognize those with particular followings, particular personalities, particular stories.
So in theory, if you die and go to heaven, as in
me personally,
Tom, you will become a saint. But because, well, unless this podcast goes really popular or something, unless you do something, miracles. Unless you do something great, you wouldn't be known as Saint Thomas.
Yeah. So it's the church is just the church chooses to recognize certain individuals as saints, but that's not to say there's not loads of other saints.
Okay, that's cool. So why do you think, what makes the church recognize someone as a saint?
So a mixture. So it's become much more formalized. So in the beginning, it was just in the early church and in the early medieval period, it was kind of just like local cults. So people in local areas have particularly kind of reputations of holiness, sometimes miracles. That's not always has to be part of the story.
But just like piety.
Local holy man would be, or woman would be kind of declared saints locally. But as time has gone on, that's become much more. The process has become much more formalized by the Catholic Church,
Mm.
and so now it's much more. You have to kind of have. It
Has it
has
like
to be,
met the
there's
requirements?
a requirement list of requirements, which are things like big personal following, local following, kind of a personal cult to begin with. You have to perform so many miracles and go through the stages. The miracles have to be proven to be beyond scientific or reasonable
Okay.
explanations. You have to have a holy, like a sanctus vita, a holy life. You have
Mhm.
to have had, you have a good reputation. You have to, I guess, be, and to some extent, a good example, because that's what a saint is, really. So, yeah, there's now, so to begin with, kind of just local holy man that you assumed had gone to heaven, personal cult, sometimes with miracles. Now it's much more like stringent process, and you've got to meet lots of requirements. But again, they're just recognizing the individuals that meet all these requirements. There's lots of people that are in heaven
That meet the requirements
that
too.
haven't met, well, either meet the requirements, we don't know who they are, or don't meet all these requirements because we don't all do miracles.
No, we can't all have a huge following of
We don't all
people. Yeah,
have, we're not all great examples. But that doesn't mean everyone who goes to heaven is a saint, but the church is choosing to recognize certain individuals that have
that makes sense.
certain something
Qualities.
qualities that can help people get to God.
And if moving and maybe a bit of a segue, but like,
Mm.
why does it matter to
Why does it
Catholics?
matter? So, a couple of reasons. I think they're there to provide an example, an
Okay.
exemplar to the holy life, to provide inspiration in their stories. I think, again, I always bang on about Christianity, Catholicism in particular, being a faith of history. I
Yeah.
think having those saints' lives reminds you that this is a historical faith. This is a faith that is history, and the faith is one that these things are within the history of humanity, and all these events are, happening at all times and all periods to all people. And I think it's important to have those stories of holiness and godliness and the sacred and the supernatural within
Yeah,
our
no, that makes
historical
sense.
story.
But I guess could you not make the argument then that in a way it kind of defeats itself? So you get someone, for instance, I know a saint, the
Mm.
Catherine of Siena, some of the things that she claimed to have done or seen, I know that then there's a massive thing of like, was any of it true?
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, I guess there are individual saint stories. I mean, we don't have the time to go through like
No,
every saint and like analyze like whether. Well, I mean, that would be a whole podcast in itself if we picked a particular saint and tried to like
dissect it.
dissect it.
Yeah,
But I don't think that takes, just because. I mean, there are some absolutely wild, especially like early
yeah,
medieval saint stories, like absolutely wild claims. But I don't think that takes away from the important thread of the golden thread of the story. That is definitely true. That is
okay.
true.
But
And
do Catholics actually believe the stories of the saints, which I guess we can come back to in a bit later?
I'm not. I don't think the Catholic Church has ever said. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's ever said that you have to believe in every story within a saint.
Right. Okay. So you because there's so many different stories, and some of them are like, yeah, I can believe that,
And
and then
some of them are
maybe some
completely
of them you're like, that's
off
so
ball.
far
Yeah,
fetched.
yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
important not to completely dismiss the supernatural, because the supernatural is just so important in Catholicism that it is part of it. So I think some people that have reduced saints to just kind of, again, nice holy local man or woman or
Yeah.
nice bloke, and they kind of take away and go, oh, obviously all these miracles didn't happen, or obviously this didn't happen,
Yeah.
or he didn't speak to a fish, or all the crazy stuff you get in like
Speak to a fish.
just the kind of things, or like, what's it, Saint Cuthbert who got otters to wipe his feet,
Oh,
to
yeah.
dry his
I don't
feet
know
off
the
with their
stories.
fur, like all these crazy things that you hear about in like dark age kind of like hagiographies. Like, yes, okay, these things probably didn't happen, but at the same time, I don't like it when people kind of take out all the supernatural, because I do think that's
Yeah.
important. Does that mean all of them are true? No, but the Catholic Church doesn't. The Catholic Church, in recognizing saints, doesn't say you have to, doesn't require that you believe in certain things, but the things, especially in the formal process now, the things that they have done to meet those formal requirements to be declared saints, that those should be seen as true. The other stories, I mean, Padre Pio is another good one, so a very famous Italian saint, big personal following,
From what sort of time period?
for early 20th century. Can't
Oh, okay.
remember
So quite
exactly. Yeah,
recently.
so he's quite a modern saint. His requirements to become a saint are obviously true, but there's loads of stories like people claim that he could fly, and people claim that you could bilocate, which means
Be
being
in
in
two
places
places at
at
once.
once, and like loads of things. So, but
I guess a lot of that probably gets put on them after death as well, once they've got that
yeah,
sainthood, and then suddenly it's like, "This guy also did this. I want to be the one that saw him do this miracle," and
there's literally someone's claimed that they saw Pedro Pio outside of a plane window flying. Like,
yeah, so basically there
but
is an
didn't.
element of take it with a pinch of salt, some of the stories.
Yeah, but I also don't think that then cancels out all the other stuff that
No.
is certainly true or has been proven to be beyond. And
Uh,
there will be elements of those stories that are true. I just it's you have
yeah,
to kind of take each one as it comes to kind of try and understand which bits probably are stories or exaggerated and which bits aren't. But I don't think it takes away from.
absolutely. Basically, the key reasons I think we've spoken about so far that it's important to Catholics is the historiography, I guess the historic side of Catholicism,
Mhm.
and the having a sort of person
Yeah.
to like model your own behavior on.
Yeah.
Is that
Example of
kind of it?
holiness, an example of the sacred and supernatural being a continuous thing throughout history. Another reason is so you're able to pray to saints for intercessions.
Oh, because they've got their specialisms,
They
don't
all have
they?
their specialisms, yeah. So you can pray to saint for a certain because they become patron of saint for certain things. So this is really important because it helps Catholics to focus on particular saints to help them in particular ways, which then indirectly helps them focus on God.
Right.
Because the thing is, what you're praying for is the saint doesn't have power outside of God to do anything. What you're praying for is for an intercession. So you're praying in the same way you can ask people on earth to pray for you. You're asking the saint in heaven who's very much alive
To
in
then
heaven to then
intercede on your
offer
behalf.
their prayers up to God because they're in a
Right.
closer position to God,
Right.
and that in hopefully will allow you to be able to get whatever you need quicker.
Yeah. And how do the patron saints come about for certain things? Because you get such random things, don't you?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can do a whole episode on patron saints and you can do some research into it beforehand.
I
Because
think
you get
again,
patron saints of like the most bizarre things ever.
I think where it's probably come from, and I guess is like saints all have these hagiographies, these lives of saints,
Yeah.
and in that life they all come from certain backgrounds. So they might have been a carpenter, or they might have
Yeah.
been a soldier. So mine, Saint Alban, he's the patron saint of soldiers because he was a Roman soldier,
Right.
and so those kind of things. And then I think it's for people in the same way their lives are supposed to be an example of holiness to the rest of us. I guess there's also that understanding that this person can have empathy with
Yeah.
these certain patronages.
Yeah.
So if you are going through cancer, and I don't know, patron saint of cancer also had, I don't actually know who the patron saint of cancer is. It's probably different types of patron saints for different types of
Different.
cancers.
Yeah.
But the point
There's
stands
a,
is if they also then went through cancer, there is the sight that you're kind of not alone, and they have like
yeah.
an empathy with you, and
You're
probably
closer to them and
exactly, and a better understanding of your
your
issues.
trials. And
Yeah.
yeah. Lovely. So
The,
it's my big thing with saints is relics.
Mhm,
So I vividly remember, I don't know how old I was, but a child going to some church in like Italy
mhm,
and my mum trying to explain to me, she didn't believe it, but she was basically trying to explain to me that in theory, that is a guy's finger and a guy from like 1,000 years ago, but it still looks like a completely intact finger. And I
yeah.
know there's all the talk about like saints are incorruptible and that's why
Mhm.
they have them out. So I guess, yeah, where to start. But like, first, I guess, do you really believe that saints are incorruptible? Surely they decompose like anybody
Some
else.
some are incorruptible, not all of them are incorruptible.
Okay.
So only some have incorruptibility.
And is that because they're better?
No, just some have been. Again, it's just an example of holiness.
Okay.
It's just it doesn't. Some saints, I can't, is it Mother Saint Teresa of Vaux? Some of that she like smells of roses or something. Says like
Her
a
dead body.
her. So there's some saints dead. I think it's Saint Teresa of Vaux. Yeah, some saints' bodies have a like a smell of roses from them, and
Okay.
it's like a sacred smell. Or they had it in life. That's another one. And like they always have some kind of sacred scent,
Okay.
and their bodies still have it now. Again, it's not sometimes it probably is because they were particularly holy or particularly pious, and like their soul. The theory is like again, this is not nothing official. Like the Catholic Church tends to not declare officially on things that they tend not to be able to. It's too much of a mystery.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the theory is that the saints' piety has made them have an incredibly holy soul, and because we're very much in Catholicism, we don't see the body and soul aren't really separate.
Yeah.
This I know some people's kind of there's some religions that see like the physical world as evil and the spiritual world as good.
Yeah.
We don't. We think that's heretical, so we combine them. We're gonna have a whole episode on that if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, we combine them, so we see both kind of very much intertwined,
Okay.
and the sacredness of the soul has then impacted the physical
Right.
state of their body.
So it's because you're so holy that you don't decompose.
Yeah, so Padre
Just like
Pio is an
for
example of he is an incorruptible body.
like I don't know, I just find that so hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Like do they because they put them on display?
Yeah, they're on display. So there's the argument that sometimes that some of them are a bit again, it's a bit like these stories. Sometimes there's no explanation and it seems probably quite true. And other times it seems like maybe people are pulling at strings a little bit. So sometimes there are incorruptible saints' bodies that have been touched up with wax molds
Yeah. Or
on their
like
faces and stuff. Um,
or had some kind of preservation things done to them.
yeah. So again, it's a bit like those stories we were talking about earlier. Gotta take each one as it
Yeah.
comes. But yes, there seems to be some genuine examples. There's that San Gennaro in Naples every year on his same day. His blood is dried. It's dried blood in a cask, like a glass case.
Okay.
And it hasn't been opened for however many years. But on his saint's day, it becomes liquefied again.
Again, I'm just like, that
So,
can't be real. That has to be somebody doing some kind of like cool science.
is it? I can't, why
No.
not?
How
How
could
can you prove
it
it?
be
You
hard?
go after this, you could go watch the videos and you try and tell
Yeah,
me.
I will. No, because it's like surely you can put some kind of chemical in that like
What
or
only does it
store it.
only
Yeah.
does it on certain days?
Yes, because people like playing tricks, don't they? You could like
It only turns to liquid on certain days.
yes, and
Like
you add
one day a year.
yeah, so you add in some kind of chemical compound and then it becomes liquid for 24 hours. And then like if you wanted to keep it
You
liquid,
think the Catholic Church, the Bishop of Naples it might be Archbishop of Naples has been running this fraud for
maybe.
it's
All about tourism,
this is
really,
just
isn't it?
Cromwellian propaganda. You just deny the evidence in front of you.
No, but I think I don't know, somehow the dried blood turning liquid seems very easy to fake compared to like a body staying intact for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know, that's the kind of thing where I'm like somebody could quite easily fake that.
I think again, like there's very few really mystical like saints relics that I can think of. Like
Yes.
there's only a handful of incorruptible bodies. There's only a handful of truly incorruptible bodies.
So do
There's
relics
some like semi-incorruptible, so they've kind of decomposed, but they kind of
not as
haven't.
much as they should have.
Not as much as they should have in those years, which
Oh.
does happen. They dig them up and then they're like, oh, they haven't decomposed as fast enough. And then there's some truly incorruptible ones. I think Padre Pio is
So it's
probably
a spectrum.
there's a
Basically, the
spectrum.
more holy you are on the spectrum,
Well,
the,
I don't actually
the
know
less
why, but
incorruptible you are.
I'm not sure why, but maybe. And then yeah, there's very weird relics like San Gennaro's blood.
Well, in terms of
Like,
thinking about relics, so relics, do they have to be like non-corrupted body parts, or can
no,
it just
could
be like
anything.
their bones?
It could be anything.
their
So
hair?
we have, I think, we don't use what's called secondary relics as much as we used to. So remember, like,
Is secondary relics things like, oh, this is a part of the cross?
no, that's a primary relic. Secondary relics, like, it's the kind of ones you used to hear about in lessons about the dissolution of the monasteries, where it was like
Or like cut up bits of Mary Queen of Scots' dress?
Mary Queen of Scots. She's not a saint.
No, but like when she got executed, they like burnt her dress so they couldn't be
Oh.
made into relics.
Yes, but that kind of idea, like a saint's, like the Virgin Mary's cloak or something.
Mm.
Those secondary relics, they don't exist as much in Catholicism now. They are still a thing in Eastern Orthodoxy. But I think
But when you say secondary, you mean like a piece of their clothing?
yeah, not so
Rather than
primary
physical.
relics is more something that's actually happened to it that's really holy. So the cross, a piece of the true cross,
Yeah.
the chalice of the Last Supper, those kind
One
of
of the
things.
thorns from the crown.
Yeah, those could or body parts. So skulls, fingers, yeah. Because every altar in both, and this is both the same in Eastern Orthodoxy, every Catholic altar has to have at least one relic in it to be consecrated as a Catholic.
Oh, so every single Catholic
Yep.
church in the entire world
Has a relic in it, has to
But
be consecrated with a
I
relic.
guess in theory that the relic could be like a tiny clipping of some hair.
I'm not sure about hair, it's normally bones.
Okay, but
I'm
I
not
guess, yeah, you've got
I couldn't
however
think of
many
an
bones
example
in
of
your
hair,
body.
but yeah,
So
it's normally
it's spread
bones.
out. Wow.
So,
Oh God, can you like search what your local church's relic is?
you should be able to find out.
Oh, we'll have to
I
have a
don't
look
actually know what my
out.
current church's relic is or what the relic was at the last church I went to.
We'll have to do some
The
research
one
on
when I
that.
was a child, it was Oliver Plunkett, Irish bishop.
What his finger?
I think, yeah, I don't think it was a skull. His skull's in Ireland, but yeah, I think it was
Well,
his
there's
finger.
something, listeners. Have a look at what your Catholic church's relic is
Let
and
us know.
let us know.
But yeah, every church has to be, but they're not. I think, yeah, looking inside, there's not all relics are these kind of like mystical,
Yeah.
supernatural ones where they're incorruptible. Most are just skulls, pieces of bone, and then you do have the secondary relics, but they're less common now.
So why bother with relics?
I guess there's two answers to this. There's again the potential that maybe there is something supernatural about them because they're a saint's holiness has had an impact on their physical body.
But sure, that's
And what
only
a
if they're
saint's done.
incorruptible.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
No. Just don't focus too much on
Okay.
the really, really, really magical and supernatural saints because,
Right.
as I said,
That's not common.
that's not common. There's literally a handful of those kind of very strange, mystical, and most are just relics.
Okay.
Normal, just pieces of fingers or foot, hands or skulls, just nothing special. Nothing looks perceived to be special about them.
Okay. But they are special, clearly.
All relics are holy and sacred. And there's why they're important is one hand, there's potential that they do have some kind of supernatural holiness to them because, as I said, the body and the soul are entwined, and that person's piety and their sacred soul has their holiness has had an impact on the physical body, which in turn could still have an impact on the physical world now. So there's
Right.
claims of people being cured by touching certain relics.
Yeah.
So medieval period England, like Thomas Becket's relics were always very common for claiming and going to their shrines. Very common to gain some kind of spiritual or physical healing from visiting a saint shrine or touching a relic of theirs,
Right.
especially primary relics like bones. And I think, again, it's that being close to the sacred has an element of supernatural power to it.
And like a cleansing power. Okay.
The secondary reason is probably the more practical and common reason we have relics is that it's an example. Again, it's another example to help us focus the mind on
Yeah.
the reality and history of the faith
So it's basically
and
something
its
to focus
place
your
in
prayers
time.
on.
Exactly. And to focus on this person again being a good example, and then that indirectly helps you focus on God. So again, it's all about focusing your mind on God and reminding you that there's a long history of
Yeah.
this church isn't just something that you're part of now. This is a very long,
Apostolic.
you're a very small part. Exactly. You're a very small cog in this apostolic machine.
Yeah. You're one of many across thousands
Yeah.
of years. Yeah. Fabulous. So we hope that you have enjoyed this episode all about saints. And I know that there's probably so much more that we could have covered.
Yeah.
I've still got loads more questions and maybe we'll do some more episodes upon that in the future. Please leave us your thoughts in the comments. Maybe let us know your saint name or what the relic is in your local church. Also, give us a review if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, then don't leave us a review. And yeah, follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. This has been But He's Catholic. Goodbye.
Goodbye.